Well,
that
that was
intro.
a little bit of a teaser. It's me and Mike, and hopefully Cambell appears tonight. And really do need to get Miss Michelle Gibson back on with us soon.
Yeah.
How are you tonight, Mr. Mike?
I'm doing fine. I'm surviving like anybody else. Just trying to sort out what's going on in this crazy world of ours that's been going on overseas, and watching all that destruction. It's not good. So
No, it definitely is not. The world is in a crazy place right now, and
yeah,
well, that's why we're here to project the reality and the focus onto something better and more positive.
yeah,
Let's all be
exactly.
constructive, right? Like, stop blowing each other up, humanity. Let's do some building.
Let's be creative. That's what makes the human race move, right?
Right?
That's
Amen, brother. Every day.
got to be innovative. You got to be creative. Because if you're not creative, you're going to be destructive. And if you're going to be destructive, hey, that's all, folks. You know what I mean? So
exactly. And
so
I try not to pay attention to get into that triggered hysteria on the tell lies vision, and because it's like they're all just clowns and comedians anyways. Like,
yeah.
Anyways, so today you got a generous donor. What sort of vortex?
Yeah, I got a really nice donation today from one of my viewers, and he really wants me to pursue the Don Smith device. So he sent me a 6-inch diameter toroid transformer, and the thing weighs like 30 pounds. This thing is heavy. Holy mackerel. But yeah,
one day we'll get it light, right? It's where with John Hutchinson, it might just float one day.
Put it to you this way: he was making bowling or cannonballs, 50-pound cannonballs float. All right. Now I've actually interviewed Hutchison twice back in the mid 2000s when I had my own podcast going. Basically, right around the dawn of the podcasting. So, there wasn't, StreamYard or anything like this going on back then. We were using a lot more primitive software to actually do our shows.
Even YouTube itself.
Well, yeah, we didn't have that. We didn't have live video like this, and I had to do the actual stream by actually having a phone call come in, go through a comm, and then put the comm into the computer, jam it all together to get a radio feed, right? So podcasting's come a long way since when I was doing it. So yeah,
you're doing it again. You're back, Mike. It's a cycle.
You know what? History tends to repeat itself.
Oh, over and over. And when shall we learn not to build the castle again?
I would like to think that I am a lot more knowledgeable now in what I do than what I was back then. Because back then I was just getting into the HHO stuff, right? So I wasn't really into the over Unity devices till a little time later. So, like, you know what? I could actually make a movie on my life, because actually the story that I could actually tell would actually take a whole night to explain, right from the beginning of my childhood to where I am right now. It would actually make a good movie, actually, now that I think about it, because I had some very bizarre things happen to me in my life. Let's say that.
Sorry about that. Jesus.
So I've had some very, very bizarre things happen.
You have had many just in the time that I've known you, and also shared several too. I think it would be more than a movie, my friend. It would be at least a trilogy.
I used to go by I still do. Back in the day when I did my podcast, I was calling myself Spyman because I didn't want to use my real identity, right? And yeah, my whole life's pretty much been Bizarro World right from almost the beginning. And
You and me both, brother.
yeah, so it's just like, you know, is this like a normal life? You know what I mean? Like, am I actually living a normal life, or am I living a bizarro world life? Because it just seems like that sometimes, because I have these really weird things happen, and just events, uh, people I bump into, some of the people that I was involved with back then. Now I figured out what was going on with them, 20 plus years ago.
And then
And
they just
I'm like,
pop back
oh,
in.
that's why.
Right?
See, like one of the guys I was involved with, just an example, he had a radio show on AM 640 in Toronto. It was called Cloak and Dagger. And it was the most popular conspiracy radio show back in those days, back in the early 2000s. So, anyways, to make a long story short, Paul Martin put pressure on the radio station to get them kicked off. The Prime Minister of Canada.
Yeah.
Because on their show they exposed he had a shipping company.
Yes, he did.
He had a shipping company.
Freight company.
Right. So it was a major. Well, basically, it was a major conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So they dropped the bomb on AM 640 about his steamship lines that he ran, and holy crap, did a shitstorm come out of that one. I would say within, I guess, 72 hours of that, they were kicked off the show, and then 2 days after that, his house was raided by the SWAT team.
Ooh, no thank you. That is why we don't have politics on this forum.
So, anyways, to make a long story short, years later, I didn't realize he is one of the 5 owners of the Toronto Star. Okay, so he's one of the owners of the Toronto Star. He's also on the executive board of Stan Lee Productions. Do you know who Stan Lee is?
Yes, sir. I certainly do.
Okay, he used to have coffee with Stan Lee every morning. Okay.
Yeah, definitely a mover and maker shaker right there.
Okay, he was a creative director for Stan Lee Productions. He also does creative directing for the WWE wrestling. Triple H, Big Show, all those names, he came up with them. He was the guy who invented those guys.
Nice.
Okay, so this was my world back then. And I had a lot of green behind my ears, and I didn't know what was going on. And then now, years later, now that I look back on that situation, I'm like, holy crap, I was involved with some pretty big players in that world. So, and also one of the guys he was also talking to a lot on a regular basis on the show was Sherman Skolnick. Now, if you don't know who he is, you can look him up. He was a guy that he had polio, so he was in a wheelchair. He was disabled, but he was world renowned in the U.S. as being a guy who went in and exposed corrupted judges. Okay, Sherman Skolnick, if you ever look him up. And Lenny, who the guy was that we're talking about tonight, he was heavily involved with Sherman Skolnick and a lot of the conspiracy stuff behind the scenes, who was actually pulling the strings. And that's why they were taken off the air too, because these guys knew who the big players were. So it goes so deep, and I could do like I said, I could do a whole show on these guys.
You should because it's quite in
It's
depth and we're
okay.
losing people in
So
here. I'd like to say though, we have quite the synchronicities because where I grew up and lived, I grew up in the Hart Mansion itself with the whole Hart family
yeah,
down the block from my house,
yeah,
and still talk to and am good friends with many of them to this day.
yeah.
But that is where I had my first paranormal encounter. But that is also a story for another day.
Oh
We will
yeah.
get back to questions that were about how it went with Hutchinson on APEC over the weekend. And I'm just pasting his new YouTube channel right now into the chat.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, send that to my email because it's kind of hard for me to do it here when I'm. But yeah, whenever you get a chance.
Definitely. And did you want to talk about his crystal batteries for a little bit?
The crystal batteries.
We have Eric joining us from.
Well,
Hello, good Eric, my Antarctican brother. How are you, sir?
I'll be doing great as long as you guys say that you can hear me.
We certainly can, brother.
Nice. I don't normally jump on Skype, and I'm like, I hope all my settings are right and everything for this.
No, you're.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm not saying Skype. I'm sorry, StreamYard.
StreamYard. Well, pretty much one and the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something that I don't jump on normally, so it's just like, I don't know if this is going to work right real quick. But you're always kind enough to send out notifications to me and stuff like that, so I just want to, jump in finally. It never seems to line up, so this was worked out tonight.
We are glad to have you, Eric. So, Mike, if you don't know, Eric does lots of radio shows himself and has been down to Antarctica, worked down there for a while, and does not believe the official narrative because he experiences different like all the rest of us here.
Has he seen the Nephilim down there?
I wish.
So
no, honestly, I really believe that they do exist. I think they're in hiding. I know the Native Canadians in northern Canada, up in Yellowknife and Yukon. Apparently, they have been sighted by the natives up there. I also found out when I was about, I'm trying to think my age. I was in Algonquin Park when I was about 14. And I witnessed seeing one of these Nephilim in the Algonquin Park in Ontario, Canada. And I did some research, and apparently the Algonquin Indian tribe have talked about these giants in the past. Long, red-bearded giants that stood over 20 feet tall. So, I don't know. I saw something very strange that day when I was 13 in Algonquin Park, and they were very big. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I definitely think there's a lot to be said about the Nephilim.
Yeah. Like
I
Stephen
think
Quayle
actually had a similar encounter as what you just described not too long ago down in the Grand Canyon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think they're very elusive. I think they do exist. Especially in Afghanistan. The U.S. soldiers found that out pretty quick when the whole battalion disappeared, or platoon. And then they sent another one in and were attacked. And they managed to kill one of these things. And they said they put it on a pallet, took it away on the helicopter, and they figured the weight minus the pallet weight, this thing weighed over 1,100 pounds. So I don't know any humans right now that are alive that weigh 1,100 pounds and stand 15 feet tall. So,
did you see any Yetis or giants down while you were in the Antarctic, Eric?
I didn't see anything that was Yeti-like or giant-like. I think giants would have stood out for sure. There was a couple of folks that were on the tall side, but one of the things that has been brought up is that due to all of the extreme cold weather gear there was often times that every person that I was looking at was completely covered head to toe. I would have had no idea what was under the gear. So for all practical purposes, I mean, there's a reasonable debate to be said that the South Pole Station could function as an intergalactic spaceport because everyone's all covered up.
I don't doubt that. Indeed, I believe it was in the late 50s, early 60s that they did some studies that showed that there were most likely portals at both poles.
I don't doubt that at all. I think there's a lot of science that if you look into NASA and the lunar projects and I mean kind of everything that goes on in the solar system that we've been doing, there's something to be said for that we enter and exit the orbit of places at their southern pole. Seems to be the norm, and it was my understanding, and I can't remember the material, but I remember coming across stuff that said that Werner von Braun and NASA program proper, when they were making their calculations to go to the moon, they had to overcome the obstacle that apparently what they were calculating for gravity, they were screwing it all up. And the best accommodation they could make was to just enter and exit through the south pole of the moon. And that's become the norm. And it's also my understanding that that might actually be more of a norm for other folks on and off planet, that's how this planet might function, so that the South Pole Station proper might be like an observation point.
Right? Like, it would make
That makes
sense. It's why it's a giant wall that no one is allowed to go to, or you're allowed to, like, just see this one little area or work in this one little area and nothing else.
Well, look at past history, right? The Nazis were all over that place back in World War II. Why were they there? There had to have been a reason to be there. So that would explain maybe there was some contact of some kind there, which helped accelerate their technology. They're working on the Nazi Bell, Diglaka. I feel personally that in my own personal research in the past, that Diglaka was real. It was not an urban legend, you know, like a lot of people make it out to be.
As most likely, probably the Honeyboo 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm. I think they were real.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Well, they were so much. They were about, I would say, 30 to 40 years ahead of everybody else. You know, they had cruise missiles that were computer controlled. You know, they had all this weaponry. The V2 project, V1 and V2 projects. You know, you had von Braun there, and you know, it seemed like they were just at a whole new level of technology for that time period. And you know, after the Nazi regime collapsed, lost the war, that's why the U.S. went in there, Operation Paperclip. They tried to gather up as many of those guys as they could, because they knew the Russians would be in there too. So,
absolutely.
Right?
Yep. I actually grew up on Long Island. I'm very familiar with Operation Paperclip. I believe it's a huge mystery to the vast majority of the population of the United States, and it really needs to be discussed because it has so much pertinence to the day-to-day life of everybody today.
Right.
You know, it's unbelievable what avenues these guys went down back in the day and permeated through our entire society.
Right.
Yeah, or the structure of power to this day that is ridiculous. But
the Nuremberg trials were a hoax. They were like, you know, it's like not many people know that. They were a hoax. They were a cover story to slap a few people on the wrist while the real perpetrators were put to work for the U.S. government.
Put in power.
Yeah, in powerful places for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And like you can go to like, is it FBI.gov or CIA.gov? And literally because of the sunset clause, they now have Edgar Hoover's signatures on the spying that they were doing, confirming that Hitler lived in Argentina after World War II. Like, it's on the actual government websites. You can read it all, and
there was quite a few submarines went missing right at the end of the war.
Yep. They all went to Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
He was in pretty good with the the controlling party at the time, and he had a layer there where he could go and spend his holidays or whatever, just to get away from everything. And I think that's exactly where he went after the war.
I can only imagine this disparity between what the local wealth was and what the Third Reich was offering at the time for whatever the deal was that they were brokering. So I mean, it's almost it's a monetary offer you can't refuse in the easiest sense of the terms.
And they turned Argentina almost into a powerhouse after the war there for a couple of decades until the empire said no more. But it's also, have you seen David Hatcher Childress's latest presentation at the recent Contact in the Desert? He goes into quite depth of showing all of that, documenting all the U-boats that didn't surrender, the battles, the pictures of the press in Argentina after Project High Jump retreated, and before they went to, I believe, Admiral Byrd's, like before and after interviews down there. But then also the fact that to this day in South America, there's the industrial capitals where the Germans settled and then built their factories are the highest UFO sightings in the world, where it's literally every day you can just point a camera at these mountain bunkers and just see them going up and down. And that's just up from the South Pole as well.
Yeah.
I have not seen that most recent stuff from him.
Very, very good work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds awesome.
There's another connection here with the paperclip guys back in the 40s when Avro was designing the Avro Arrow. They also got a secret project from the U.S. government called Project Silverbug. And that was the Avro car, the flying saucer they were building. Mm-hmm. And I live about 30 minutes away from that facility where they built it. And apparently, the Project Paperclip guys were all over Toronto. They had an office in Toronto. It was called Design X. You can look it up. And these old Project Paperclip guys were all over Avro Arrow and that facility during that time period. They were working on missile projects. They were working on the Silverbug project. They also worked on an energy device called the cold heat generator, which was basically a modified refrigeration unit that created electricity. The second you turn this thing on, it would run for good.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the company was called Design X. Their head office was in Toronto back in 1943-ish, around that time period. So yeah, some of the Nazis, I think, were already coming into the U.S. because they were there prior to the end of the war.
Oh, for sure.
So I think there were some dealings going on just prior to the end of the war.
Even before we had, there was a massive movement. I mean, at the very least, I mean, I'm from the Northeast. I know it was present over there. There's all kinds of footage that can be referenced of, gatherings in, Madison Square Garden and stuff like that. Big, huge, uniformed Nazi gatherings. There was what they used to call the American Bund, and that was basically the Nazi party on this side of the ocean.
Wow. That's crazy.
There was a massive presence before and during the war.
You think there was chance that the Nazis actually infiltrated the U.S. government at that time as well, getting into high-powered positions?
I think they were posturing for it at that time, definitively. They're definitely, at the very least, targeting it. I couldn't myself attest to how far they might have accomplished, like the people of that mentality. I do know that a lot of folks need to look into eugenics and what was going on in that time period
Oh,
as well, and how the eugenics movement has grown into what is contemporarily referred to as progressivism.
Mm.
Yeah, and really, have you guys seen? It was cut off in the Canadian House of Commons when someone brought up, an MP brought up the amount of WEF World Board members, junior members. So that's the World Economic Forum by Klaus Schwab there, and how he was bragging on video saying that they've infiltrated all of their governments through this program, and it's like 50% of Canada's elected people in the cabinet or something are all on this council. It's just insane, but we'll try to not talk about politics and get
No,
ourselves.
it's all good, but the real actual insane part on that is that how this is news to people. That the vast majority of people are like, oh my God, really? Billionaires are conspiring to purchase politicians to control our lives? Like, this is news to some people nowadays. But this is the way the mass media has left, like, jelly brains out there.
It's more or less, can you handle the truth?
No one can
what I
handle
mean?
the truth right now. They've been so conditioned and dumbed down. They totally, like, that's part of the program. Nobody can handle the truth.
Because you can't handle it. The dystopian cognitive dissonance that
You read my mind. Yep, that's what I just wanted to say that cognitive dissonance is so strong in society right now that if you try to hit someone with a new truth, they will come at you with such fury and venom. You know, you're like, hey man, my intent was to help you.
But it's classic divide and conquer, right? So the best way is just to stay neutral and stick to information, facts, experience, and showing. Like this right here. Have you ever seen this before, Eric or Mike? The famous Badland Guardian Indian heads here. It's kind of like
I have seen that before.
yeah, where
It's very cool.
Oil derrick there. And so what's so crazy about it and why I'm obsessed with this is it's only 100 kilometers from where I live here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. But there's the Olmecs, also this Aztec weather headrest and whatnot. And this is a road, and it's up to an oil derrick. So this is terraforming on huge, giant hills and gullies. And this Farham Foundation here has done this research where they find megalithic lines, measure them out, and then plot them around, and they literally line up to every other ancient site around the world, like how a place in Alberta can specifically point out the Grand Canyon, the east coast of Canada, Mexico City, and so many more. And it's crazy, the different paradigm of what we are taught and what the vast majority of humanity is currently believing itself that it is. And that with the power of projection, the law of attraction, that we manifest our beliefs, that then that is the reality that humanity is stuck with, unless this shift and awakening continues, and we don't destroy ourselves.
I really think people are starting to wake up. I think it's like my parents' generation. You know, like a while ago, I asked my mother, you know, honestly, do you believe every single thing that our government tells you to be true? And she stopped for a minute. She had to think about it. And she goes, yes. And I said, exactly what I thought. It just proved my point. We're, you know, like that's what that generation was. They trusted the government with everything. And now the world's falling apart at the seams right now. It seems like it. And I think the younger generation's starting to be more perceptive of what's going on, and they're starting to question things now. You know, you're saying one thing, but this is happening. Or they're saying, you know, about the coronavirus or the war that's going on overseas right now. The younger generation's being a lot more open to saying, you know what you hear on the news is not really the truth. You know, it's a lot of fabrication. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors by the media. You know, people are looking to other sources like alternative media now to kind of get a different perspective than your Fox Newses and your CNNs, you know, that seem to be, you know, totally controlled by the elite to tell you exactly what this world is, when meanwhile, everybody's getting shamboozled. You know what I mean? What we're living in is a lie. And the younger generation's picking up on this where my parents didn't. It went right over their head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there just wasn't. We're in a new era, like the Babylon moments again, Tower of Babel moments again, with the internet connecting everyone and having
exactly
available.
Very much so, because look at it. Our parents didn't have the internet. You know, even when I was a young kid, the internet wasn't out yet. You know, it didn't come out to 1995, right? And that's not that long ago when you think about it. But our parents' generation, they never had it. They didn't have this instantaneous collaboration with people around the world, blogging, doing video logging, you know, all this multimedia stuff that even, you know, what we're doing right now. They would only dream of having stuff like this back then. And if they did, it would be a different picture right now. I'll tell you that right now. Totally different. Because they would have figured out, hey, our government's not telling us the truth. You know, we're all been duped.
Exactly.
Right? So, yeah, the internet, I think, is the Pandora's box that the elite did not want to come out, and it's out. And they're getting exposed big time. So,
most Americans are quick to understand that foreign nations' governments might be corrupt. But heaven forbid they'd look in the mirror, you know.
Can you handle the truth?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously Joe Biden's really competent for the job. I mean,
oh my Lord,
no, Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, look. I mean, it's ridiculous currently to consider that we have a process that our founding fathers put, you know, quill to parchment on, and this is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
we're not doing that much better with Trudeau. So
understood. You know, I often wonder here in the U.S. if, you know, if the founding fathers, if the people that signed the Declaration of Independence could go do a quick tour of the country and give us an assessment, you know, what would they say?
Oh God.
You know, my fellow Americans, what the hell's the matter with you?
Yeah, you should be ashamed of yourselves.
Yeah. You know how much blood has been spilled to make sure this date has never, ever, ever supposed to happen?
Wow. Yeah, it just, and you know, without the internet, a lot of this stuff would not come out. Mm-hmm. You know? Mm-hmm. You know, our parents were living in a blind, you know, the old cloak and dagger scenario, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now the internet's out and the cat's out of the bag.
Now, well, oh, very cool images. Playing devil's advocate, though, I wonder, okay, so in our parents' age, since they were so bamboozled, could it just be that simply that the overseers, the powers that be, whomever they were, just understood the technologies at the time, which were simply television and books. So even prior to television was simply books, which was a technology.
Right.
What if the overseers have just been continually a step ahead? What if right now we're under a false pretense of this freedom of this information superhighway, like the internet was first presented to us? But if the folks are a step ahead of us and they're flooding the superhighway with disinformation, like we're learning about the disinformation game currently,
Yeah.
I would still say it's a very much buyer beware situation. I get there's the potential and there's less barricades, but what we're learning is that the disinformation hand that can be played against the public is a lot harsher, I think, than people have previously considered.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to be really concerned about how much misinformation and disinformation can be flooded in. And, you know, don't get me wrong, I know the mass media is trying to, like, say that's coming from the general public, but no, the shoe's on the other foot.
Yeah. See, with the difference between TV and, say, radio, they're controlled by the elite. The internet's kind of like a free-for-all Wild West, right? So it's up to the person who wants to find out the truth to look in the right areas. Now
Well, that's correct.
He has areas that he can go to. He can see what's out there. He can use his own conscious mind to say, yeah, this is possible.
You're 100% correct. This leaves the burden of responsibility on the end consumer of the information being digested, but the problem thereof is the discernment level of this person. And there's been a lot of intention and investment over the decades to destroy that discernment of the individual. I don't think the average individual contemporarily has that discernment.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I'm coming out as somebody who's experienced real stuff from the Antarctic program, and I have to go against other quote unquote researchers who've never been there and present stories of other people who claim to have been there.
Right.
And that's who I have to compete for airtime for.
Have you seen any of these while you were there at all?
Bernie, I'm just going to take a quick break. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
I have not seen any of those specifically. I can only say that a couple of the images look familiar just from the internet.
In general, just I was inferring pyramids in.
Oh, absolutely. I have recently been putting out to market. When I went to a 5D event in Las Vegas in November, I had brought a bunch of stuff that was from Antarctica. One of the things was this massive panoramic photo. It's huge. So, I mean, it needs to be taken into consideration that the intent of this photograph is to show a large portion of Antarctica.
That's awesome.
In that photograph, you know, it's also printed in there, this is the such and such range. This is Bratina Island, and it's depicting things in the picture. So I was showing this to Brad Olson in Las Vegas, who's a known Antarctic researcher and author. And as we're going through this photograph, all of a sudden he goes, "Look, there's a pyramid," and it even says in text, "pyramid," not Mount Pyramid or Pyramid Mountain. It says pyramid. And you can see it in the picture, and I apologize to the world for trying to present this in video, because apparently it doesn't come across clear in video. But what am I going to do? I mean, I'm not a movie producer. I showed it to a real guy who was like, "Yep, that's awesome." We did a video to discuss it. He's like, "Yep, it's legit." And now I'm trying to let folks know, like, this exists. There's an actual photograph.
Have you seen the old map? It was like a parks map. I showed Rex there of the Grand Canyon, and it's like literally every single peak is either named a pyramid, a temple, or Colosseum or something like that. It's crazy, and it's every single seafaring empire of the last few thousand years has its own little pyramid giant pyramid in the Grand Canyon. including
Have
Solomon.
Have you ever heard of or seen, way back when they first turned the internet on, and it's been well scrubbed since, is my understanding, but the photographs from back in the day of the pyramids off Montauk Point, Long Island?
I don't know if I have those. What I did see lots of, and is crazy, is all along the eastern coast. It's like these dikes to break the water, man-made construction, but then they go into it and it's all megalithic ruins of like carved statues and all sorts of different craziness. And it's like, where the heck did that, like, it's just, there's been so many resets and lies and BS, and it's just ridiculous. Sorry, I'm gonna just play this little clip here. It's of a Tesla Tech video that was uploaded by the main Tesla Tech channel earlier today. But these guys are talking about how anybody can salvage the lenses on the old TVs and use that to gain exponential more energy out of your solar panels or solar energy or heat energy, and
magnifying lens into it.
Exactly, and it's beyond what everybody wants to hear.
Questions? Can you talk about the Fresnel lenses and any other projects you're working on with those?
Yeah. So Fresnel lenses are kind of one of my favorite personal free energy devices. It's just a magnifying glass, but again, from the before mentioned, I didn't pay for the sun. You can have any array of these and be focusing down that energy into just pure heat. I mean, you got infrared radiation, all that, but you didn't pay for it. So currently our system is a net gain, even if we don't apply it to anything. I mentioned thermoelectric generators. I'm not really a fan. On this first page, our motorcycle, when Vernon came to see it, it's kind of small. The exhaust, if it's even visible to you guys, we had this square exhaust. We were that was our first method of trying to harvest the waste heat energy. We'd get a few watts, and that would run the hydrogen units, and there we go. That was free. We started getting all sorts of gains, and that was our way around people telling us it was impossible. Hydrogen boosting is breaking the laws of thermodynamics. Okay, I'm pulling this off the waste heat. What are you going to say now? And it's giving so much more than just the 10 watts of energy I pulled out of the heat. We're getting a whole 300 extra watts of power on the dyno. It looks like over unity, and that's where a lot of the disconnect is. There's over unity hydrogen devices. This is not one of them. This is just cool. You can use it for health. You can use it for growing plants twice as fast. I stay away from those things talking because I'm horrified of the FDA. But I implore you to look into it. But the Fresnel lenses themselves are just a really easy way of focusing energy down, and then you can find any other way to transfer that energy, whether it's heat to electric, heat to motion like a Stirling engine. In fact, we'll probably bring one next year, just a little display device. We can have a little heat lamp above, show the temperature. You guys can go home and build this. You can get these things off the front of like those old projection TVs even. And you can melt rock with it. You're just holding it. You can literally melt rock. So if you take it out of phase a little bit, you can heat up water. I just like water. It's very strong. It's one of the best hydraulic liquids there are. And you can use it to do hammer pumps. You can just do steam expansion. You can do Tesla turbines. All of these different ways to generate electricity. And it's pretty simple. And there's none of this woo-woo stuff. It's all out there, and you can bring people in to our side of thinking by showing them there's a different way. We don't have to be burning asinine amounts of coal. We don't even have to have internal combustion engines. We can just run everything electric, and we can generate that electricity from all that free energy coming down on us. Yeah, that's.
Yes. He asked if a tracking device was built to track the sun.
Yeah. You don't even have to, because a lot of the time you can just set up an array and it's cheaper, because these things you can get them free off the side of the road nonstop. But if you feel like having a really pretty cool setup, you can get literally a light sensor. Let's be a display again. Okay. 2 arms out here. Now pretend these are a couple planks of wood coming towards you guys. And there's a couple more planks here. If you put a light sensor on each corner, you can just hook up an Arduino to tell you, okay, there's more shadow on this one. That means the sun's on this side of the X. If I can see, like you right now, perfectly between the X, I'm looking at you. You're the sun. If I can't see you from this sensor anymore because it's out of phase, you can just tell 2-axis motors to turn your lens to where it is looking at that. You can do the same on your solar panels. You can get like almost 100% more output just by not having the sun bounce off your panels until that one nice point of the day. If you actually track the sun, you're going to get a lot more output. It's just another way of tracing down where you're hemorrhaging your efficiency and finding a solution. Did that kind of answer your question? You had a simple question. I just went off on a tangent. Yeah. I literally, out of like the 15 I've messed with, I found all of the Fresnel lenses on the side of the road from old projection TVs. Yeah, you just have to drive around. Maybe that's a Texas thing. I don't know. I guess everyone liked the big TVs. Do you have a question?
Yeah, quick question. So I'm curious. So we got the tracking of the sun down, but some of these lenses produce so much heat. How do you regulate the amount of heat based off the intensity of the sun and the clouds without frying whatever it is that you're trying to use as a reservoir, whether it's oil or water, to generate the heat or the steam or the movement?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Again, back to the Arduinos. They're so cheap, and you can have a little IR detector to see what temperature you're getting at. And you can just have one more axis, pull the lens away further. I like to just set the things where it does have a moving axis or a set amount of lenses, and you don't pinpoint it. If you pinpoint it, you'll just blast a hole straight through anything. Yeah. You can take obsidian and just pull. But you just take that focal point out of phase a little bit. You just move it back, you move it forwards, and you lost the efficiency of that beam by 1,000%. But it was free, so who cares?
Free is free, dude.
Have you done anything with GEAT technology?
The vapor carbureting we do is a lot similar.
All right. So, Eric, I'm hoping you found that fascinating. Mike, did you catch a bit of that?
Yeah, I was watching a bit of it the other day.
And
I'm always a big fan of free energy.
Exactly. And I had to get into a bit, as that is the main theme of our stream right now. But I have to step out for a moment to call Cambell to see if he will hop on our stream, because we have hijacked his channel as well as my own and a couple more. But people are like, "Where's Cambell? He's been going forever." Eric, did you have something to say a little bit, or do you want to see what Mike's doing here? And Mike, do you want to tell a little bit about yourself? Because Mike is all about the free energy, and he does Faraday research and has built so many different devices and is now combining them.
I am very happy to listen, and I guess I'm going to preface it with really why I jumped in was in your email. You had brought up that you guys were going to be talking about John Hutchinson.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if you had gotten to that yet or not. And I was just curious. I was very curious about that topic and where you guys were going with it, because that's someone that I used to deal with back in the day. I've had multiple phone calls with him, and he's a very interesting character.
Yeah, I've interviewed him twice, back in 2005 and 2006. Mm-hmm. I actually interviewed him, and back then I was a young guy, so I didn't really know too much about it, but he was definitely one of the big influences in my life to get into the alternative energy and over Unity devices, and he was definitely a big influence on me, definitely, because he was doing stuff that obviously was getting the attention of Boeing and Lockheed Martin and all these big aerospace companies in the U.S. And they were coming up to Vancouver to visit him in his lab and witness some of these effects that he was doing in his lab. So he has quite the history. He just started out with an unbiased approach and wanted to replicate a lot of stuff that Tesla was working on back in the 1890s, and was successful with a lot of the devices. And then he started to have some interesting anomalies happen, such as levitation. He also worked on these crystal batteries, basically batteries that never lose their charge. They run pretty much forever. So he was gaining a lot of attention. He got on the Discovery Channel, a whole bunch of science programs. He's been all over Europe, Germany. He's done a lot of stuff in Germany, China, Japan. I think the Japanese were really interested in his crystal batteries. So he was doing a lot of work out there. He's definitely a very eccentric person to actually meet in person. But you can see his sheer genius behind him, because he has this aura about him that is pure, a non-bias, just a curious mind in the most pure sense. And I think that's why he's been so successful in replicating a lot of stuff that Tesla was doing, and also coming up with some interesting findings of his own. So definitely a person to watch.
Yeah, so we had not gotten to him yet, and I will play a clip of where I was asking him some questions. I've been talking to him on his new YouTube channel before APEC happened, and this is the go between us on Saturday. The sound might cut out in a couple spots. I'm fixing that for the next time I'm doing the APEC, but also the edited shorter versions of this interview is being uploaded by APEC tonight or tomorrow afternoon, at which point I will post the links.
Australia
and this is Nancy, his wife, also speaking.
Crystal structure from John's crystal power cells, and they're also mixed into it is magnetite, and we created a system to record the frequencies onto the magnetite. Entanglement, because when we change what we do in the main unit, that changes the ones that are out in the field. So what dilithium? You got Hutchison. What do we call these things? Johnny tubes.
Another thing before I want to mention the gentleman that said Alex Pizarro brought me a rock a long time ago in the early 80s, and it had a 5 cycle per second pulsating magnetic field.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, I measured it on a scope. Alex Pizarro tried to get it analyzed. People would get all frustrated with it and would say, don't bring this stuff around and that kind of thing. And Alex, I said to Alex, this is quite unique. So Alex went back to Arizona to try and find more of it, but he came back kind of sunburned and said he couldn't find it. And eventually that rock was, I introduced it to my friend Roman Brito of Munich, who was staying with Bill Ross and myself in Canada. And he hung up on a string on the back of a chair, and it suddenly flipped around, and I said, well, Roland, if you find that intriguing, please, you can have it. And of course, Roland in Germany, and then Dr. Peter Kokoschnik says that Dr. Margarita Kokoschnik invited me to Germany, and that's when I left in the 89.
I've got a question for you.
I'm sorry, I want to get into this gentleman here.
Yes. Let's go to actually. Let me see. Let me go to Mark, and then I'll go to Pat, and burning this no disrespect. I'm just going in disorder. Okay, Mark, go for it. Hey, John.
Hello.
You having fun?
I'm always having fun.
Awesome. So you guys mentioned something about expands, microwaves, and a spark gap. Was there any other components to that experiment? What was the result?
Which experiment?
You mentioned something about an expand microwave amplifier and a spark gap.
Yeah, expand radar units. It was simply called device 15 by 17. It's a large unit, military surplus. It's used for radar systems for calibration of them. And it had a feed horn on the end of it with our RG cable. So you can adjust it to any kind of frequency you want. Different frequencies, different phase shifts, different amplitudes, and all that cool stuff. And that was used in the 86 area time frame.
And what experiments was that used then?
Which experiments?
I was using that expand on all sorts of experiments more so after I moved from Mrs. Burpee. I don't think I used it with U.S. government folks. I don't remember that. No.
Did you use it in New Westminster when you
Yeah.
built the lab?
Yeah, exactly.
Do we have that now?
Yeah, it's transmitting on. They'll transmit. I think it's a neat.
What kind of results did you get with that experiment? Was that where you had the Hutchison effect, metals becoming plastic, pulling apart?
It did help in that. Yes, it did. Without it, I don't think I probably would have gotten results, but that's linked up with many other things I'm using. ELF and VLF. 15, 20 meter bands. And one thing I like to mention in all of this weird stuff that I've done, mass is very important.
Mass
of the machines themselves, just something drawn out of the mass. And that's according to also not just me, Dr. Harold Wilson from DREP. Felt the same thing, as well as I had a radioactive source involved in all these since day one.
So
something is drawn out of it and works in unison with the RF.
Which is why vacuum tube equipment is so important, and the solid state circuitry isn't that important.
Unless it's ruggedized military grade transistor.
A transistor, okay.
But that's ruggedization meant for any possible situation. Countermeasures, they have to measure HC as its friend or foe. So they can do 100 different adjustments, incoming signals that would.
Anywho, sorry about that. It's 3.5 hours of Hutchinson, his amazingly intelligent wife and partner, Nancy, and there's sections where they go in depth about their crystal batteries, and me and Mike are going to be doing more of that. I've been emailing back with Hutchinson, and we'll be scheduling a couple of podcasts with him. And one of the first I promised to do for him is with Bob Grenier of the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project, as I don't think they've really gotten to talk yet one-on-one together about the work, but Bob is one of the foremost real academics that has been working on and trying to understand and evolve all of John's discoveries and works over the years. And they are both extremely, they just love each other, but yeah, it's going to be an epic moment for science and humanity when these minds finally get to meet.
That sounds awesome.
But yeah, so Eric, I can definitely post his email for you in the private chat.
That would be awesome. I mean, it would have been, geez, the last time I would have potentially even spoke to him would have been 2010. It would have been before South Pole. I haven't spoken to him since then for sure.
Yeah. I don't even know if he would remember me. It's been so many years. 2005, 2006. Yeah, it's quite a few years back.
No, that could be fun though. I remember he was a very interesting character.
Oh yeah, he's
I was
that's
quite impressed with his APEC.
yeah, he was you can tell he's very intelligent just the way he answers questions. He's very methodical on the way he comes across everything. And that's I think kind of the secret of his success, because he's such a methodical person and a curious mind, and he's willing to try things that, kind of like outside the box kind of thing, a different approach. So obviously it's worked for him. He's pretty much world famous. Anybody who's in the alternative energy or the free energy movement knows who he is. And if you don't, you haven't been living.
Then you need to, right? And I can't wait to start working with them, replicating, using some of these crystal batteries as the power source for the devices and the dynamic systems that we are building and going to be testing over this year.
Well, I think the crystal battery is something that can definitely be implemented in some of the devices I've been working on.
100%.
And that would increase the over unity effect to the point where, well, if I got a battery and it's putting out 12 volts, and I could get a half an amp out of it, and I never have to charge it ever again. Wow, exactly. That kind of changes the whole game right there. So it's like, I don't believe in a free lunch, but obviously there's a very interesting anomaly that's going inside those crystal batteries. And I think John would actually agree with me on this, that the Casimir effect is actually happening inside those crystal batteries. So
that's the prevailing quantum / ZPE / dark energy.
It's negative energy.
It's negative energy, exactly. Yeah. That's being accepted in modern academic engineering finally.
Yeah, if we had this conversation 20 years ago, a lot of academia would totally, push it away. They wouldn't accept that. But now things have changed. So definitely the negative energy, I think, is a very crucial component to making devices over unity. So it's a matter of us, coming up with a way to do it. It's like anything. If you put your mind to it and you figure it out, eventually you'll put the pieces of the puzzle together and get something that works.
And the Maury King quote of, "It just takes one mind to change the world, but an army to implement it." And it's all of the minds coming together, working together, and so many in our community that are building these different devices as well and testing them out and sharing ideas and knowledge like never before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's that's a big part of it. And like, my channel is geared to number one, try to influence people in a positive way, saying that, you know what, maybe I should get on the bench and start making some of this stuff. And I think that's kind of how I got into it, because I was a skeptic. I went in with, a pretty non-biased approach to everything. And I built the HHO thing, the generator for the car. I put it in my car. I tested it out, and I got some very interesting effects of increased mileage. So, like I said on many of the shows, that it helps with the credibility. If you make it, build it, and implement it and see that it is working, then you go, wow, maybe there's something to this. And that's
Being
where
the
it kind of all
change,
starts.
proving it,
Yeah, proving it.
to yourself, and then
Exactly.
others can see when you have it that it's like, oh wow, it's actually real.
And
Anybody
it's
can do.
that's right. And that's why the other approach is on my channel is anybody can do it. All you have to go is to Home Depot or order some parts on Amazon and watch videos like mine, and you can put this stuff together for yourself and see how real it is. So I try to help people, try to educate some people on how to put these devices together, try to wean out the real ones from the non-real ones. You know what I mean? So I've been working on two devices specifically right now. I got a couple of other projects on the sideline that I'm still developing and actually want to build soon. So yeah, it's a matter of seeing what's out there, trying to wean out what's real, what's not real, and build it and provide the information for my Patreons and for all the subscribers that go to my channel on a daily basis. So as long as I can give something out, I'm going to get something back. And for example, today, that video I just posted today, I had somebody donate me a 6-inch diameter toroid coil, and I'll be testing that with the Don Smith and also the Gerard Morin device. So yeah, stuff like that. And I had another guy send me an oscilloscope. So obviously I must be resonating with my viewers, to donate stuff to me and help me out. And I correspond with them on my channel, as much as possible, to keep that information flowing. And it seems to be working. People, it's resonating, right?
Absolutely, just like APEC and the rest of this community. And it's that your Patreons get it first, but once you perfect it, you still make the plans. Once you have your working model that you've done, like you're satisfied with, right? Because it's like you don't put out your experimental design that could blow up on somebody. No, it's you put out 3.0 that has worked several times and you're good, and then it's like everybody can have it to reproduce. And you're gonna do the parts list for me and Cassandra and Aaron there, I believe, and we were gonna do a build replicating of
exactly
the pulse motor, but then you were switching over to the Don Smith now, or the Gerard Morin.
Yeah. So it's a matter of a few technologies that I want to implement into my own. See, like I'm building stuff that other people have built or came up with. So I'm taking what I've learned from all these devices that I have built, and now I want to build a machine of my own. All the stuff that I've done over the past few years, I want to implement that into a machine that I can call my own. The mic generator. You know what I mean? Like, come up with my own device. But this is all part of the learning process. Like I'm a machinist by trade. I was never into electrical.
The free mic machine.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I want to thank you for your time and everything that you guys are doing for Disclosure, but I have to jump out and make some dinner.
For sure. Sorry, Eric. I literally was just looking up your channel so that we could share it with the audience as well.
Oh, no worries. I really appreciate it. I'm definitely trying to get the word out there. Like, I know you guys are trying to get the truth out there as well. I really like what you guys are doing. So thank you so much for the invite today. And I'm going to try to definitely jump in more often.
Sorry, quickly before you leave, what's it called on YouTube so I can...
on YouTube, it's Deciphering My Experience.
That's right. And you've done a couple of really good episodes with Rex Bear over on Leak Project.
I like Rex. I want to do more stuff with him. He's a good guy.
Absolutely. He is a friend and brother to us as well.
That's me right up top.
There we go. Here we go. Why don't I have the bell on? There, now.
Oh, what's the matter with you? Busted live on air.
Hey, I was good.
Everybody needs to ring that bell, dang it.
So for those interested in actual real human experience of working and being in Antarctica, check out Eric's channel, because him, just like the rest of us, is a fellow human trying to figure out what the heck this realm is. And you actually made it to what they call the Antarctic continent.
Absolutely. And I'll be happy to share more next time. Maybe we could do some more planning or something. You never know.
For sure. I'll send you a follow-up email a little later, and we will schedule a time and date, brother.
Awesome. You got it, guys. Thanks again, and have a wonderful evening.
Cheers.
So long.
Cool.
Oh, all right. So that is Eric. He is a great guy. He himself was contracted as a plumber, I believe, or he's a plumber by trade. Pretty sure that's what he did in Antarctica. It was a government paid job, but while he was down there, saw all sorts of shit that did not add up. And well, he very intelligent, very awesome brother, and great information with him.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check out his channel. I'm curious. Most definitely.
Yes, sir. I think I'm gonna play another 5 minutes of the Hutchinson, where I think it's also talking about someone that did a rebuild of the crystal battery that's asking him more.
I'm gonna have to head out myself soon. I gotta be up pretty early.
For sure.
Let's talk for a couple minutes, and then when I head out, maybe play that video, and then call it a night.
Good, my friend.
Yeah. So, anyways, I'm going to be working on that project with the new toroid coil. I'm going to be testing that out in the next few days, and so hopefully something good will come out of it. And I think it's one of the biggest things that was setting me back is not having a big enough coil to actually get the power I need out of it. So obviously I'm going to have to tweak this and tweak that, and eventually I'll get a unit that's going to be running a lot of power. But I'm really curious to see what the setup I have now, adding that coil to the setup. That should be quite interesting to see.
Right. And then there's just so many things variables that you can add in and test with it.
And one of the new things I'm going to be showing very soon is a new coil. I found this guy had a hint by somebody on one of the boards that I'm involved in. Some of the guys that have been in this like for over 40 years. And when they gave me a lead to go check out this guy in South America that figured out how to negate lens law on a motor coil. And he showed the device. He actually tested it out. So it was negating lens law by 98%. And when I seen how he did it, it made total sense. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. You know, if you can negate lens law on a motor generator, that means basically what lens law is when you're running a solenoid coil and you're running a motor or a pulse motor or a generator, the second you put a load on the generator, what happens is it creates a lens effect, which actually creates like a braking effect on the generator. All right, this is the result of lens law. So what this coil design that he made eliminates that lens law. So when you're pulling a load off your prime mover, say it took 1 amp to actually drive it and pull a load off it, now that 1 amp might go down to maybe 10 milliamps, 20 milliamps load. So if you could reduce the amount of lens law on the circuit, your prime mover becomes exponentially more efficient, and therefore it wouldn't kill your battery or whatever you're using to power your system. So
was it this presentation, these guys right here, that
no, this is totally different.
So have you watched this Tesla Tech one that I was playing where they were talking about the lenses at the end? But
yeah, I was watching it.
What you just described at one point in it here, they are talking about exactly that, of the getting the efficiency of
Doing
it
everything.
and
Yeah,
the
but
lens
then
laws down.
You don't know why things are working or how well they're working. We didn't bring it.
Next year, though.
They take some of the heat around from the car. Like, it's coming up. It should tie in exactly to what you were just saying.
Look at her go.
So we've done some other projects, such as the motorcycle that you guys might have seen last year. I was out in the parking lot, and it was all analog, so we'd have to like turn a bunch of butterfly knobs to get the mix right.
Last year we didn't have an issue of a computer.
But this one, 2 years ago?
Mhm.
So we have a little demonstration of how and why hydrogen works, and we're just going to use our hands to demonstrate for you.
This should be right here, right?
Again, not the woo-woo stuff, not any plasmoid energy, just the simplest, you bought a crappy cell on eBay and you're starting out.
All right,
So if you're going to assume this would be a top of your top of the cylinder stroke in an engine, I guess we'll step back. For anyone that needs a refresher on a 4-stroke, you essentially have, this is your piston, you have a compression stroke, which takes your fuel mix, your air and your gas, and once it's up there, it's on a higher pressure, it's hot, you get the spark, that's where you get your power stroke from. The one stroke right there, the power stroke, is where you're converting all your energy from chemical energy to thermal energy to your actual kinetic movement. But in a chemical reaction like that, the internal combustion engine is horrible because fuel will burn at one speed. One fuel will burn at one speed. So maybe at idle, you're going, and then you have the rest of the stroke where it's just heat expansion, and that's fine. And then it blows it out the exhaust. But if you start revving it up, you're going higher RPMs. Eventually, you're going to get into an issue where the is not lining up with how fast your engine's going. You can be up here, and I'll just slow down for frame of reference. If you have the spark go off, and you're already pushing up in your exhaust stroke, that means you have all the flame, all the heat that should be being used for the power, and it's just going out the exhaust. It's just wasted exhaust heat. And then beyond that, you have residual heat in the block that you try and hemorrhage out through your radiator. All the hydroxy is doing in a simple setup, I can't stress it enough that there is steps and bounds and evolutions above just simple electrolysis. But we're not talking about that today. Just regular boosting for beginners, you have the ability to burn your fuel better and faster in a certain frame of time. In this car, for example, what were we getting, City?
we were getting like 18 city.
We were crazy enough. We flew up to New Jersey, bought this car completely broken, dead, did not work. We went through TSA with all of that. Yes, they didn't like us.
They actually broke one, which was kind of rude.
Yeah, they took it apart and broke it, and they didn't know what to do, so they just kind of shoved it back in the bag, and that was that. But anywho, we just to prove the point, we went up, bought a car that hadn't run in 2 or 3 years, hooked everything up, and just started bombarding it until it started running. And after replacing something like a radiator, We drove it across the country just to do a mileage test to show the reduction of carbon and the benefits. But the thing that's always disconnected in beginners, at least, is there's no one telling you why it's working aside from it's running your fuel better and carbon deposits. Yay. Just in this stroke again, or I guess let's be the top view. So now your piston's going back here and coming towards you guys. If you have the spark plug here or anywhere, you have a fire front, right? So your fuel mix starts here and it expands out to the other side at that rate. So if that's happening when the cylinder is going down, you're perfect. You get all of that out of it. But if you're at the higher RPMs, you might need it to burn faster or to burn more fully or release the energy. It depends on what your circumstances are. In this car, we found it was like 1.5 liters for this engine, where our MPG in the city would drop from 18 miles to the gallon to 16. But on the highway, we would go from 23 or 25 up to 42. And that was repeatable all the time. You know, if you had a tailwind or a headwind, it would fluctuate some.
Yeah, the highest we got with the tailwind or whatever happened was like 60, and we could never replicate it. So we were like, oh, well, whatever happened, like we don't know.
42 was the number. Basically doubling our mileage, 98% increase was what we could always get if we tuned the cells, used the right amount of electrolyte to just focus on what our high RPM would be when we were traveling 80 or 90 miles an hour on the highway. It's 90. Let's be real.
It's definitely 90.
But, and I mean, it's crazy. Like we took the cells off recently to start putting them on the 560 and driving around the cars without it. Like I keep running out of gas because I'm just not used to filling up like 3 times a week. Well, I drive assloads. Texas is big. Just believe me on that. So in the cylinder, just going back to it, if you have a hydroxy mix, HHO, Brown's gas, whatever name you want to give it, when the spark goes off up here, the hydrogen oxygen mix will explode. It's not going to slowly burn and combust. It's going to bah, 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 all throughout. And if you think about the metaphor of a fuse, which is going to burn faster, a fuse lit on one end or a fuse lit on both ends, or a fuse lit in 15 sections? So depending on where you need the power curve to change to, you can add different amounts of hydroxy. And it's just going to be something you have to experiment with. There is the basic benefit you're going to get, which it tends to be around 20%. And that's just from cleaning your fuel and burning it better all around. Once you start trying to use too much, then you're going to start putting strains on your alternator, which is going to slow down your engine, which is going to nullify some effects at certain areas. This is a lot of the reason people get really, really mixed results, because they'll buy a cell and, oh, hey, cool, yeah, I feel the pep. And then they do a mileage test and they're getting the exact same or worse, which that can also boil down to newer cars. You have the issue of the ECUs either running its fuel mix based off the O2 sensor or from a NOx sensor changing its timing. But both of these things go out the window with hydroxy because your emissions drop at least by 80%. All the dyno tests we've done have been 80 to 90% in carbon monoxide and unburnt fuel emissions. It just goes away, which also reduces NOx like crazy. So if you have a newer Mercedes where, you know, you spent $30,000 and for some reason you tried to hydrogen boost it and now you're getting like half of what you used to. In those, they're advancing their timing until they hear knock. There's NOx sensors in the engine. They'll advance it until they hear that, and then the computer will come off that a little bit to try and save efficiency, which again goes out the window with this stuff. So a lot of the issue is just not understanding how the basic forms of this technology work, and then not knowing what to do to implement it to your situation. You're going to get 20% if you get one of these cells that is built well. In fact, somewhere out there, there should be Andrew, and he actually sells some really nice equipment. Visit him. You can let me have a plug. But from that, it brings up the point that you really have to take measurements and try and figure out what it is you're doing and why. If we're just going to be dumping amounts of hydrogen in, then we're going to have these 50,000 forms of people arguing that their cell puts out more gas, and I'm going to run my car off of it that way. But if they don't know how it works, they can't do anything with that information. That's just the most simple explanation, and I just wanted to get that out there. That
Know what you're doing.
I get it.
Yeah, I gotta head out here, Bernie.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know if that did it justice or if it was later on in it, but basically, yeah. No, that only covered half of it. It was the later part in the garage and the car. They were talking about the carburetor part and whatnot that you were. Sorry.
That's okay.
You got some closing words and want to give one little quick show of the vortex inducting coil that you got today before you go.
Yep. Oh, you want me to get it?
Yeah. Do you mind? Do you want to show
okay. Okay, hold on a sec. I just gotta grab it. Hold on.
Most definitely.
All right, I'm back. Okay,
You're
so
back
here
and
it
you
is
got
here. Yeah, it weighs like 25 pounds, 30 pounds. It's huge. It's a 6-inch diameter. It's got 4 poles on it, all the different wire combinations. So I'm gonna start mapping these out and hook it up to the Don Smith device. Yeah, this thing's a beast, complete beast.
It is. I love it.
Yep. So I'm very curious to see how it is going to work out. It's made with Litz wire, which is a very fine wire, and it's got an enamel coating on it. Like I said, I got to map all the wiring out. What wires, what's the primary, what are the output wires. So nothing's labeled on it, so I'll have to figure it out.
Ooh, the fun testing.
Yeah. So, excuse me. But yeah, so this is one of the things I'll be working on. Also, the lens-free coil. I'm going to be doing a video on that soon. And also looking into the crystal battery, so we'll collaborate on that a bit.
100%. I'm going to set up with John and Nancy, his wife, Hutchinson's wife. She was just so... It impressed me with her knowledge and the amount of research she's done on her end now, digging into the technical aspects of what John has discovered in his work and like bridging it from the current academic literature to the multi-dimensional work of Hutchinson.
Well, hey, what better, to have a wife that's into the same thing, right? So
she's match made in heaven.
Yeah, there you go. She's gonna learn a lot. Said Mike, are you making any blueprints for the future? Well, blueprints as far as projects, we'll definitely get the Don Smith up and running. That I could actually power a house with it. That's one. Number two is my own generator. That collaboration of all the stuff I've learned over the years, I'm going to put into this machine to make an over Unity machine that obviously can sustain and run a house. So that's the other project. Also, the crystal battery. I'm going to definitely work on that. That could be a real game changer in a power system.
I believe it is.
You know, the crazy world that we're living in right now, it's like, you know what? That's the reason why I have
It's
my
backwards land.
channel.
Exactly.
You know, it's like I said today, the question for everybody is, if the lights go out, are you prepared?
And 99.5% of the population, that answer is probably no.
Yeah, you're probably right on that. So that's the reason why I have the station channel that I do, is to share the technology with everybody. You know, you could ask me questions about solar panels, BSM units, solar control charge units, batteries, capacitors, anything that's related to sustaining an off the grid system. You can ask me questions about it. That's why I've made the channel, and I stated that in the last video. So, you know, I might not be working particularly on that component or whatever, but I do know about these systems. I've worked with them and I know how to put them together and make them work. So this is the information that my channel is trying to give out to everybody. So if the lights do go out, you are prepared.
And I couldn't be more on the same wavelength with you on that. And as the spring comes here, I'm going to be figuring out how to hook up my batteries with my solar panels, with my Magrav coils and Keshi plasma system. And hope I've been talking with Mr. Fix-It Rick Crammond, who is part of the Keshi Foundation and their Knowledge Seeker workshops. And he has, we've discussed over email him helping me, and he's agreed that we will get a working Magrav. He's going to help me build a working Magrav under the KFSSI Foundation specifications so we can actually test it and get one and see if it works or not.
Yeah, good stuff. So, yeah, I think
I just posted your channel in the chat for everybody. That is this is your YouTube channel right here for anyone that has.
I think I have over 120 videos now.
Very nice. And they are all educational and great. And it's you know, you're out of work right now, so you're having to rely on donations and the Patreon, where you're putting your newest work and everything up front into the Patreon first. So it's like people will get that first, but then it's like once you're actually like satisfied with the device that you've made and run it a couple times, you will eventually be releasing the blueprints for free to the world. And to us to recreate some before that we will do with everybody.
Yeah, but like all my concepts and everything that I put that's in my head on paper, I'm putting in the Patreon so people can kind of follow what's going on in my crazy mind.
Oh, aren't we all just a little bit though?
Yeah. Anyways, guys, I gotta head out. I gotta be up early tomorrow. Bernie, thanks a lot. Everybody, thanks a lot for tuning into the show tonight. It was really good talk tonight.
Pleasure, brother.
All right, we'll chat soon, and yeah, we'll talk about crypto. I have some more questions. We'll chat about this week.
Yes, definitely, and I will cover some crypto questions after you are gone, and we play a little bit more of the APEC. Sorry, not that I'm kicking you out.
As I fade into the sunset.
Dude, no. You are the sunset clause. You're the one that just pops out of nowhere. Boom, we've got a UFO. We've always had it. But now it's official.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot, Bernie. Cheers.
Later,
have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Oh, where am I going? Here we go. All right, not this one. We want this one. Yeah, so I'm going to play a little bit of the Hutchinson interview for you guys here while I see if Cambell is available to come on. And then when I get back, I'll explain a little bit of the monoatomics alchemy as well as go into crypto, because crypto is, well, it's up today and very much, but will it stay? We are in a volatile up and down world.
Academic. So if you could tell me, my question is like, what are like the top few things that you think people that have either a lot of training or don't or whatever, what are the top 3 or 4 things that we need to unlearn, that we need to, that, that it's like, whether it's in electromechanics or quantum physics,
John's never learned it. It's so funny. He doesn't understand what John never went to school.
No,
so he doesn't.
I want my coloring book and blocks.
He doesn't know what to say to you as far as what to unlearn, because he never learned what you learned.
You're meeting people like that all the time, so it's kind of like there's got to be, and clearly there's some recognition of the terms that people are coming in with. So I'm kind of wondering, it's like, is like for me, I love Claude Shannon and really electromagnetics, but I felt that electromagnetism was left early. Like everybody left and started doing physics, particle physics, and rather than completing electromagnetism. And I'm kind of wondering, out of these things, what are the things that you think people have wrong in their head that prevents them from seeing things the way that you're seeing them?
I could recommend a good book. That whole topic, it's reality. I believe it's called Reality Denied. It happened at a different way. The book. He covers a lot of that in his book, and I don't know. I just have something to like. I had a lot of vintage 1880s electrical machinery that I really enjoyed, and very good stuff like mirror galvanometers and other cool things of the time.
But so he doesn't know. He doesn't know because he doesn't know what he hasn't. He's never been in a physics class.
No.
He's never been in an English class or.
Never.
One example, the right-hand rule. Everybody that's done electrical stuff knows the right-hand rule, and is that even applied, or is that one completely wrong?
Well, I like the left-hand rule. A little better, maybe. And then you get into certain thing that's kind of limit person into a narrow opinion. Ken shows would probably agree with me. You kind of expand out over the wall and see what's around, But wow, I didn't know that existed. Well, that's applicable to top physicists like Rennie Lewis Valley versus Einstein. They were kind of opposite, and Andrew Sakharov as well. Why he called Dr. Kuhn, I have no idea.
The question is. Yeah, well, it's he's trying to find an answer to what? Exactly. Doesn't because from his paradigm, you're in a totally different reality. Okay, he doesn't relate to. I mean, we talk about the bell rings, everybody lines up and goes to lunch, and it's like. It's like what he never went through that. He never went through the programming.
No, I had to learn a lot on my own by my dad's library and from a lot of other people.
As well as experimentation, right? And then experience what you experience. Then and take that into the next step. And would it be that it's just to not wear blinders when presented with like a new idea, field, or subject of the science, the quantum, the multiverse, because we only know the the 0.0001 that was matter. We're still missing the 99.999%. So each person learns their own little thing, but they think it's everything when in fact it's just overall 100% that is the universe of everything, multi-dimensional.
Yeah. So he's breaking up. I don't know. Can people hear John and I, because it was Bernard broke up.
We can hear you.
Okay. All right. Well.
Sorry, I muted myself out.
So you know, think like a 4-year-old. The 4-year-old says, "Why is the sky blue?" I was told because it's reflecting the water of the ocean. And I went, "Oh, okay." Until I realized that the ocean was a hell of a lot farther away from Minnesota than sitting on the shore of California. So, and I was in Minnesota. So, you know, don't believe everything you're told. And if someone tells you, Ben Franklin, and he duplicated the experiments. He duplicated the Tesla stuff. You know.
I guess the question is, you know, we kind of all agree what frequency is, cycles per second. We kind of all agree what amperes are. We kind of all agree what volts are. So there's things that we all agree upon, no matter where we came from. So, you know, when it gets beyond that, where do you think these
the geometry? Like the Mandela style of sound frequencies that are a full shape. Are those the ones to essentially focus on? Like cymatics.
You know what a Mandela is, John?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
So, well, it's just kind of like this pattern. And if you, the Mandelbrot, the fractal, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, we've got a system that's fractal, and then we have the male, the new idea, the point that comes in, and that's what John. This is what John does. He uses points to come in, and he brings a point into the system and changes things.
Like a cat whisker.
Like a cat whisker, which is a male penis.
No,
it is. It's the male that brings in.
Sharp points like energy.
It's the same thing, John. We're talking the same stuff. We got sharp, yes.
Earlier you were saying that you sensed for the resonant frequencies and that you aimed to have the resonant frequencies. Can you elaborate on that specifically of how would you calculate that or sense that or know that you have that resonant full frequency?
Maybe Tim could repeat what was just asked. Because
actually, I missed it too. Bernie, can you go again? And your connection is cutting out.
Sorry, it's because I'm also using StreamYard going to YouTube. You earlier mentioned that John got the most effects when the frequency was a resonant frequency and that he would sense or aim for frequencies. Can you elaborate on what exactly, how you calculate, how you sense, and then how you would be able to input that specific resonant frequency that gave you the most effects of the combination of energies?
Okay. First of all, John's high spectrum, if you don't understand what that means. Okay. Yes, you are. Okay. We can all eat Asperger's for a while too, you know. So John, when he was 5 years old, got a transistor radio. Remember those little transistor radios? And he'd listen to them, and you could take them to the beach and shit. You know, this is long before you had your iPhone. And, you know, this. Yeah. Okay. What he listened to was static.
That's fascinating.
So you got somebody who's been listening to static for decades before he created the Hutchison effect. He already knew what was happening in the information systems in that static. So,
very interesting static sound.
so he's listening for a certain combinations that's happening in that static, and then he knows, okay, the effect's ready to have transmute something.
Do you have synesthesia? Like for me, I see sound. Is it something like that?
What?
George Lissick's had a diode system where he knew when an effect was going to happen, it would start oscillating back and forth with polarities.
Okay.
But
maybe that's what you're doing. You're vibrating.
No, that's how the field stress detector.
Yeah, that's off the power cells.
Yep.
The crystal power cells.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let me think on this.
So what he wants to know is, he wants to know what it is. What is it that you hear? Well, I guess somebody's going to come here and put some headphones on with
Well, it's. I know I hear number stations a long time ago, and sound generators running.
I'm not talking about that. Talking about when
I hear and visualize and make.
Right. So when you got the headphones on,
yeah,
and there's a certain pattern of noise coming in your ear.
You're able to feel it, right? Essentially, that the resonant frequency resonates within you, and then you're sensing it and know. Would that be correct?
Oh yeah. You realize you plug your ears and you still hear, which it's kind of like one of those things. Your body is vibrating as well and sending stuff up to your eardrum, not just what's coming in the ear canal. So it's very possible that his whole body is listening and not just what's coming through the headphones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quick question about that. That sound. I mean, to me, it sounds a little like synesthesia. For me, I can recognize a piece of music by the performer and the composition based on what it looks like in my. Is it something like that when you're listening to some of these sounds? Is it a highly visual thing, or is it in feeling, or
all of that? Yeah, right away.
Okay. So what's your favorite piece of music to listen to? Why?
Yeah.
So
let's go to Michael Boyd next.
Okay.
But Michael, go for it, sir. Who has been patiently waiting?
Hi, John. I sent you a private chat message just for me. I'm curious, do you have like a website or anything like that where we can get more information about it?
Only SlideShare, where I downloaded all the pictures, or not pictures, but documents and the Hutchison files.
We had John P. Hutchison, but I haven't been on there for a long time to load stuff up.
Nancy has a YouTube channel. Nancy Lazarian Hutchison, which has got a lot of good stuff there. My YouTube's got stuff on it, but it's mostly all mixed up, incomprehensible gibberish. A few TV shows are.
You've been taken off YouTube a few times.
Yeah, copyright stuff.
Would you please post whatever website or anything that you have that's most recent? Because it would be nice to be able to follow up and research on it more. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, the pioneer in this. George Hathaway, as well as Bug Greener. They are pioneers, and Bug Greener publishes a lot of videos on explaining in regards to what I was going to be doing. So they're more confident than they try to talk out here.
Sorry, so John doesn't put stuff in form, and so it's.
I would say Bob Greener and George Hathaway. George's kind of private, but that's okay. But Bob is publishing a lot of videos on findings and things.
Have people read Mindbenders by George Hathaway? That's all about John, Mindbenders.
Yeah, that's George's book. Mine's called Mindbenders, I think available on Amazon.
Okay, somebody just posted
Yeah, John, I just posted your main YouTube channel, Baroness Carla Conniption Hutchinson there in the chat to everyone.
Thank you.
And absolutely, I can understand why you're so appreciative of Bob bringing him in discussions with him.
Yeah, Bernie.
Bob does great work
Yeah, thank you, Bernie.
deciphering your work. And I'm talking to Bob currently through email, setting up a couple of multi-hour discussions with him. And if it's all right with you, I would like to bring you in with Bob as well, and schedule that in the coming future, if that's okay.
I got a little thing for guys here. We, for the tones, the input into, these RF generators got input, right? So he's got these ones that you can input like an audio signal into it, and then it turns it into the RF at that particular wavelength, that band. And John Daisy changed this together, and this is what we use for the elimination of radioactive contamination. How those music and those tones were developed was with a Geiger counter and a couple of computer speakers and a uraninite sample. And the actual audio, just that band, that audio band, can create a field that brings down the radioactivity of uraninite 20%. Okay? Again, that's this billion-year thing. And then John takes that and puts it into all the bands and creates this whole system. But I got to figure out some place to put it onto a drop site, because it's got all this copyright material, and YouTube keeps snatching it up and down when I put it up there. But if you guys want to experiment with that and get your own samples of whatever, for me it was a radioactive material, and those combinations of chords that are used in this particular track, it's like literally 100 different tracks running at the same time, and all creating amazing harmonics. You guys are welcome to play with it. I'll get it off to you. And then if you want to send it out on different radio bands too, you can. But you can actually modify a radioactive element using the audio tones.
Okay. That makes perfect sense to me. Do you use any of the solfeggio frequencies?
Bernie, I want to go to Mark now. Thank you, sir. Mark?
Yeah, I just want to touch up on what Bernie just asked about the listening to the static. The way I understand it, and I'd like to hear from John Nancy, is that when you have standing waves or coherent waves in space, the static would change and become more coherent. And that's what you're listening for.
Yeah, I think it's coherent in that. I learned a lot from old friend Thomas E. Bearden in the early 80s from information and videos and books he sent me on standing polymer waves, interferometry, and all kinds of cool stuff, and how to monitor it and that. And it was quite amazing on some of these things. Now, you get into all sorts of areas and electromagnetics, you get to something came along rather dynamic. It was called the Soviet Whisper. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it was a 5 cycle per second vibration with a code in it. Over the horizon radar, Chernobyl powered it a long time ago. I was fascinated by that. We listened to it, picked it apart, put it on scopes, spectrum analyzers, looked at it. So the whole background thing, to see endless sounds and stuff, radio frequencies. Earthquakes produce their own noise. The lightning does, meteorites do. Ham radio. I recommend older publications from the Amateur Radio Relay League from the 50s and 40s of all the cool stuff that they used to do back then.
Also, you're using VFF and VLF frequencies along with the microwaves. to create that effect? Were they?
Yeah, it's kind of electromagnetic soup.
Yeah, but the soup needs to be coherent. They need to be significant fractions of one another, kind of like strumming a guitar. All the frequencies, if they're not matched within a certain, either a third or a quarter or a half, it just sounds like shit. But if you have them, working together so that their peaks match every once in a while, then you suddenly have the harmonics, and then you have harmony, and it sounds like music again.
Yeah. Kind of like an orchestra.
Right, exactly. It's like tuning an orchestra, and but because the intent distance would matter too, the harmonic would change, right?
Yeah.
By whatever distance you just moved it.
And amplitude is important as well.
And getting to amplitude, what power levels were you running this at?
I was actually very low because I didn't want to upset the Department of Transport Canada or in the United States, the Federal Communications Commission. And it was well-shielded areas that I was in, except for the apartment. It was not that well-shielded. But anyway, that's, I would say probably 5 watts, 10 watts max in RF output, different frequencies, different requirements, and that kind of thing. The voltage areas with AC and direct current was 400,000 volts at 1 milliampere, and 90,000 volts at 56. However, I had to use current limiters on these transformers because they just blow all the fuses out. And I did blow out a full transformer. So I have the current limiters. Like what I use very simply is nichrome wire. Let's say from an old plate or something. And by looking at it, it's going to glow red. Then that's okay. That won't go past any more amperes. Then I had a nice switch over that to go full direct. And I tried to put parts with the ceiling and blew the voltage.
There we go. Sorry, the sound is horrible. There's better edited versions of the specific segments of that APEC conference that are being uploaded to the APEC YouTube channel, which half of it was done before the stream started, and sadly, Tim, I was so hoping that synchronicity was going to happen, but you can't win them all, I guess. Just the first half without Hutchinson was published tonight, so I'm guessing the others will be following tomorrow, and you can bet that I will be playing those that will have the much better audio. But more importantly, for the future APEC, I will be setting up a desktop computer with a Ethernet line to the internet, not Wi-Fi, so that won't have those cutouts and bad sound quality for all you lovely souls. I will also be announcing when I get a confirmed schedule with John Hutchinson and his lovely partner Nancy, as well as the unbelievably intelligent professor that is Bob Greenier of Martin Fleischmann, and let you guys know when those will be. I will also let you know when hopefully Cambell is doing okay and his move went well. I've been unable to get a hold of him lately, but I could only imagine with everything going on. But we will be doing a Cambell stream soon. I'm going to play just a couple more minutes for you guys while I get a couple things ready, so I can close with a little bit of crypto news as well as explaining the monoatomics that Bert and Ernie are constantly next to, so that all you lovely souls can start making your own plasma monoatomics, colloidal waters, and plasma structured water that is most likely the fountain of youth, and so many more. So while I get things ready, I'm going to play this lovely piece because the message couldn't be truer in this time. And I pray for all lost souls in this conflict to find their way home to their ancestors and soul families, and that the cessation of hostilities will end as soon as possible, and this 8-year conflict of genocide against two brotherly peoples on each other, well, and outside, anyways, that there will be peace, and that's what needs to be.
This is the bit, isn't it? That confuses me. It's like, did we choose to come here to get this sorted out, or is this just seems a little unfair, doesn't it? That you know, we seem to be here, and there's this parasite messing up our experience.
And you know, I know in my own life, the times that I've made major changes, it was like it became more painful not to change than to change. That was when I made big changes.
You know, it's this whole ridiculous narrative of it's an unsafe world. There's not enough for you. It's scary. Everyone's out to get you, and clearly the old civilization was completely the opposite to that. It was all about empowerment, like literally.
Cosmic resonance, I think they called that one, or
cosmic resonance. That's a better name.
Real science, you can actually produce free electricity, and this is part of what Tesla was doing, is the differential between the top of the spire to the ground actually creates an electrical differential that you then connect to another wire that goes into the ground, your grounding, put that into the third phase in your circuit, and then you have a bell ringing circuit, and that actually produces plasma electricity out of the air. It's real technology. These things actually function producing electricity. It's crazy.
The movies are the truth and the news is the lies. They've completely flipped it.
You know, when you look at everything with new eyes and you come across information like she was born into a very wealthy family with elite connections, you know, it means something very different now to me than it would have even a few years ago. And it's our free will that they've really also messed with, because we've been lied to and we react based on lies. Just getting their independence and end up in civil wars for 20, 30 years happens a lot.
Because we keep choosing to pick up the gun and use it on ourselves instead of building and uniting and accepting that we are one people, one spirit, one harmony, on one plane that together, united, can achieve anything we dream of.
So do you want to, wake up, or do you want to just keep going along because the change is too difficult?
And then give them pieces of information that they will then pursue themselves and look into, and then they'll wake themselves up.
I was going to mention it's the whole red pill, blue pill of the Matrix. I mean, that of the movie. And you can consider that movie as a documentary because they're telling us something about what's happening here. So do you want to, wake up, or do you want to just keep going along because the change is too difficult? Wake up.
You're awesome. Oh my goodness gracious, I messed it up. Supposed to be you're awesome. There we go. So actually what I'm going to close with is sharing another good friend of mine and recent APEC presenter, Charles. Oh my goodness. Sorry, Charles. I forgot. Charles something the third. Charlie C. the third. I forgot the full name. Charlie is amazing. It's the gravitifier that he's working on reproducing And this was a video he uploaded yesterday.
Hello, I'm Charles Crawford III.
Charles
February
Crawford
28th,
III.
2022.
My man.
Show you my setup so far. We got power supply for the motors. Connect here. Ultrasound device for higher accuracy ultrasound. Connects there. Okay. Then there's the power supply now, 5 amps. A little beefier for this flyback transformer high voltage for the rotating discs. And the Slayer exciter Tesla coil from Alex Chekhov, I believe. I might have to make direct contact, so I added this. I'll try without it at first. In the videos, you don't see this sticking up, so I think it's connected down there to the wire. But for now, we'll just try putting it down at... Alright, got a gravitometer and an AM radio set to static. Alright, as soon as I turn on the Tesla coil, I should get some interference and the gravel fire. Place the magnets in the center plate. It's dusty. I'm scraping the aluminum. It's aluminum powder and the brushes on it. And I've got another computer, another camera for another angle. Oh, that's updating. So I'll just do this one camera. Alright, set it here. It'd be good to get the tuning process, so let me show that. I turn everything on. Okay. Start with ultrasound, make sure it's working. Now it's at 10 kilohertz. Yes, so we'll turn off channel 1 and channel 2. That's what we're connected to. We'll change the amplitude all the way up 20 volts. Frequency 20 is above human hearing. I can't hear this. 10 is good. We'll start there, and then I'll hit channel 2 to turn it off for now. Alex said it's not turned on until later. We'll do the motors. Start everything up. Some interference on the radio. Put that up here. A little push. The bottom one, if it's too close, maybe too much resistance, but there we go. It's at 7 volts. Could go up to 12, but yeah, maybe we'll start at 8. Half an amp. Also powering this one to help cool the high voltage flyback circuit. Turn that on. Alright, see if I can get some charge on the plates next. Should read. Oh, there it is. Set up to 9 volts. Okay. You can see if the Slayer exciter Tesla coil is working. We put this. Oh. Yep, lighting up. Okay, we'll also have a gravitometer from Alex Chekhov. This will light up. When I get near it, the meter goes up. Kind of can see the red there. There we go. Red lights up. So you want that red to light up when near the gravel flyer, so that I know there's a charge field around it. But currently it's not, so I'm not getting enough through the wire that's down the center. So what I'll do is I will turn off. Already not working well. Turn off that. Connect it here and here. This. Stuff all that down center. That might be what we're seeing in the videos. Okay. Turn it on, see if it still works. Oh, there we go. That's great. That means that AM radio is picking up. I'm not getting enough here.
Oh dear. Need to stop it. There we go. All right. Mr. John Hutchinson, brother, thank you for joining us. You will find a lot of love in this community as well. You have been inspiring us all for a very long time, good sir. And what synchronicity that you pop in. I was just talking right before you entered about how hopefully we will be able to schedule yourself, myself, your amazing partner Nancy, and the wonderful Bob Greener together to discuss all of your work. Right? And wizards, hobbits, elves, and dwarves. No goblins or trolls around here. Bridge builders, not living under them. But I sadly have to cut this stream short because I am due on the Keshi Foundation's plasma reactor group Zoom meeting, which is starting in exactly 3 minutes. And I promised Rick that I would be on that one, and it, well, could lead to huge breakthroughs and good things because I've halfway built their Magrav energy generators, which are triple solenoids within themselves, nano-coated and wired in Keshi's three-way, triple solenoid coil within a coil within a coil within two more coils within three more coil sets of those two coils with different monatomic plasma spinning within them and their outer layers being nano-coated. And yeah, I'm rambling on. I need to get there. John, good sir, I will send you another email later tonight or tomorrow when I have a chance, and whenever you can, let me know. I'm also going to send one off to Bob to see. He usually says, I think it's Sundays that he's available, but he's in the UK, so the time difference, it would be early in the morning or really late at night on a Saturday for us, I believe. Anywho, much love and respect to you all. And yeah, like I said, setting up a better computer for the dual streams, so the next one won't be bad at all, or be cutting out the sounds. As for, I believe this should also be streaming to the Crypto Alchemist YouTube channel right now. It was supposed to. If it's not, that's concerning. Anywho, for crypto, Luna, love Luna, it's doing very well. I bought a bunch at 40 when it crashed, and now she's all the way back up to 90. Wonderful times, but not really wonderful times. Yeah, I'm just going to have to do another whole stream on that. Look forward to crypto collaborations that I'm doing with Project Moongold YouTube channel, and that they are also going to be streaming on the Crypto Alchemist channel. So you can look forward to intense, quality, in-depth crypto technical analysis streams directly on my main Crypto Alchemist channel. Yeah, so love you all. We will see you on the next one, hopefully later tonight, and depending how, I will definitely keep updated on Cambell. Prayers to everyone. Much love, respect, peace, and eternity, I guess, on this world. Heaven on earth. And with that, a good night.
This is the bit, isn't it? That confuses me. It's like, did we choose to come here to get this sorted out, or is this just seems a little unfair, doesn't it? That you know, we seem to be here, and there's this parasite messing up our experience.
And you know, I know in my own life, the times that I've made major changes, it was like it became more painful not to change than to change. That was when I made big changes.
You know, it's this whole ridiculous narrative of it's an unsafe world. There's not enough for you. It's scary. Everyone's out to get you, and clearly the old civilization was completely the opposite to that. It was all about empowerment, like literally.
Cosmic resonance, I think they called that one. Or
Cosmic resonance. That's a better name.
Real science, you can actually produce free electricity, and this is part of what Tesla was doing, is the differential between the top of the spire to the ground actually creates an electrical differential that you then connect to another wire that goes into the ground, your grounding. Put that into the third phase in your circuit, and then you have a bell ringing circuit, and that actually produces plasma electricity out of the air. It's real technology. These things actually function producing electricity. It's crazy.
The movies are the truth, and the news is the lies. They've completely flipped it.
You know, when you look at everything with new eyes, and you come across information like she was born into a very wealthy family with elite connections, you know, it means something very different now to me than it would have even a few years ago. And it's our free will that they've really also messed with, because we've been lied to and we react based on lies. And just getting their independence, and end up in civil wars for 20, 30 years happens a lot.
Because we keep choosing to pick up the gun and use it on ourselves, instead of building and uniting and accepting that we are one people, one spirit, one harmony, on one plane, that together, united, can achieve anything we dream of.
So do you want to, wake up, or do you want to just keep going along because the change is too difficult?